2024 is starting off strong after a monumental year in gaming. With some huge announcements for the future, I think gamers will continue to eat good after the year of our Lord 2023. Starting off right in January, I knew right away I was playing Ubisoft's Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Marking the first core entry of the series since 2010's The Forgotten Sands, The Lost Crown sends players back to the franchise's roots with a Metroidvania-style platformer in what is one of the most visually impressive games of the genre. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown thrusts players into a lore-heavy universe with a surprisingly in-depth narrative, engrossing traversal and exploration, and pulse-pounding combat that pushes the boundary of the 2D action platformer experience. After concluding an assault on Persepolis, the warriors of Persia, known as the Immortals, celebrate their victory in battle. Our main character, Sargon, celebrates with bittersweet tidings given the state of Persia and its people. A victory nonetheless, the spoils are soon soured by word that the Prince of Persia, Hassan, had been kidnapped. The Immortals follow Hassan and his captor, Anahita, to the Mountain of Kings, Mount Kaf. When they arrive, strange energy fills the palace as distortions of time and space adorn the halls of the Gilded City. The Immortals break off, leaving Sargon alone to discover the plot behind Hassan's abduction and save the Prince of Persia. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the first Prince of Persia game that we do not play as the Prince of Persia. To be honest, I never felt being the prince played a significant role other than our status, and I loved the opportunity it gave the writers for Sargon's background in this game. I'm honestly quite impressed with this game's writing and storytelling overall. Not only did the narrative have a few twists and turns, some felt monumental and left me eager to continue the story. What's great is this game's story is hardly told exclusively through plot points and cutscenes. So much of the rich history of Mount Kaf and the characters and the story of King Darius, the previous king of Persia, lies within the lore found on the tablets and scrolls littered throughout the game. Some pieces of lore provided nuggets to day-to-day life, while some were full-on short stories related to major plot points. I tend to like a game that gives you the big picture in its actual narrative, but allows its lore and world to fill in the gaps so the dialogue and cutscenes don't have to spell out word for word what's happening. Beyond this engaging story of betrayal, the personal journey of Sargon finding meaning in what he stands for as a warrior is fulfilling and performed wonderfully. There's definitely some odd choices with the characters. Some of the Immortals feel like complete stand-ins for the plot, and there's this one character that just kind of straight up disappears other than a cryptic lore piece, but those things were just minor detours on what was overall a great experience. I went into The Lost Crown expecting to just blow through this game with a budget story and walked away highly satisfied with the writing and the overall conclusion, even if some moments were a little tropey. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is a top-tier Metroidvania that does a great service to the genre while being one of the strongest entries in the Prince of Persia franchise to date. The team at Ubisoft would be hard to deny the clear inspirations gathered from modern classics like Metroid Dread, the Ori series, but The Lost Crown feels most at home with Hollow Knight. I feel Prince of Persia takes what makes the formula work for each of those games and wraps it up in its time-bending narrative. Traversal and combat are the main pillars at work with this game, and with a complex suite of maneuvering skills, combat becomes a silky smooth flow of blades and death. With that said, you can imagine this game is pretty tough. I played on the 3rd difficulty tier and got my ass handed to me so many times. Your ass! The Lost Crown at its heart is a traversal game, and my goodness are the skills that support your exploration so cool. I think it's important to recognize that this game doesn't reinvent the wheel, but it does use the franchise's history, aesthetic, and concepts to deliver a total package that's thrilling and keeps continuity between story and skills at the forefront. Sargon's basic movement suite is very fluid and dynamic. He is fast and his base kit is robust. Silly skills like wall jumping aren't locked behind upgrades in this game, and I love that. But you'll expect to find air dodges, teleports, and grappling the further you progress the story, but each item complements the story overall and makes traversing the very expansive map a blast. There are some uniquely Prince of Persia skills that are very exciting and different from the games it draws inspiration from, however. Shadow of the Simurgh allows you to make a crystallized shadow of yourself and return to it at any time. This leads to some absolutely wacky puzzle solves and some dynamic combos in combat. While the shadow is amazing, my personal favorite skill has to be the Dimensional Claw. This ability allows you to pocket any projectile or enemy, and it allows you to release them as you see fit. I thought this combo potential was wild, but when you discover how many times it's used for puzzles, it gets bananas. Collectibles are in an extreme abundance, from health upgrades to currency used for upgrades and lore. Each area is sprawling with goodies to keep you coming back and checking up on with new powers. Puzzles in the Lost Crown range from simple games and perspective challenges to using every power you have with ultra-precise movement and timing. Some of the latter sections and puzzles really invite the perfect platformer vibe, and while great for me, I can imagine some people weeping under the pressure. Talking exploration is a great opportunity to discuss one of the best features to the game that I don't think any Metroid style has ever done. When you're scouring Mount Koff and you happen to stumble upon a collectible you can't access, the Lost Crown allows you to capture a memory of your location. This takes a screenshot of what you're viewing and posts a unique pin on the map that you can hover over and look at the image. I hope this becomes a standard in 2D platforming because this was an exceptional method to keep track of hard-to-find collectibles that I stumbled upon and just couldn't get, or areas that seemed very important, just not at the time. While maneuvering is center stage, Sargon's combat techniques are complex, engaging, and complement the movement perfectly. Lost Crown in the early bits is very difficult, as many enemies can basically just one-shot you. Trial through combat is a fair way to describe this experience, as I found myself dying quite a bit. There's very little punishment to death though, so long as you engage with a nearby whack-whack tree, which serve as the game's checkpoint system and has an absolutely crazy name. My combat breakthrough was actually using the game's training section. It was a real eye-opener on how to connect some of the abilities and very meaningful combos. Initially, Sargon has a flurry of attacks with his twin swords, a dodge, and the ability to parry. I think the thing that makes combat so interesting is how each of the traversal abilities becomes a combat enhancement. Before you know it, you're juggling enemies in the air the entire time before they die. Sargon also has what's called the Athra Surge, or essentially an ultimate technique. You build up Athra in combat by landing successful hits without being hit, and the biggest gains from parrying incoming attacks. There are ultimately 11 Athra Surges of varying levels that are amazing failsafes to cancel through enemy attacks, but are pretty badass as a standalone. Pair this with the amulets found throughout the game, Sargon's base combat suite goes full Buildcraft sicko mode. The amulets are dynamic with offerings from the basic ability increases like gathering time crystals from a distance to the highly valuable like resurrection on death. My personal favorite slows down time in a bubble on successful parries. Whatever you find yourself struggling with, there is typically an amulet to meet that challenge. All of your gear down to the amulets can be upgraded with the game's Godmommy Blacksmith. While time crystals are an important currency for upgrading, you're going to find the need for quite a variety of items that are littered about the map for upgrade and purchases. In terms of who and what you're facing in combat, the Lost Crown has a robust set of enemies. There are definitely a few reskinned enemies from previous areas, but for the larger part, each area has a distinct enemy set that pushes Sargon's technical skills to the current limit. Like classic Metroidvania, each area enemies are static and you can expect them each time you come through. This makes traversal in combat so important because learning the flow of an area, what enemies to expect and where, makes survival much more attainable. The boss roster is stacked. There were some fights that were insane with like Dragon Ball Z style spectacle, and I like that there were boss fights just kind of scattered throughout the map that were very innocuous, some in very unsuspecting places, but some that still had those grandiose set pieces that just scream, "This is a boss arena." Overall, the gameplay loop for Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown combines a stellar set of movement techniques as the basis for one of the most fluid combat systems I've ever played in a Metroid-style platformer. While some of the techniques aren't game-changing, Lost Crown gets them right by making them fully facilitate the story and places that they come from. This game also introduces some incredible ideas unique to the genre we hopefully will see moving forward. Ultimately, figuring out the sometimes painful loop of death in combat leads to a massive sense of accomplishment in a game that is honestly very hard to put down. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown has my heart in the art department. This game is truly stunning in just about every way you perceive it. From the halls of Persepolis to the time-cracked bluffs of Mount Koff, each location is tailored to with fine details and iconography. Each foreground set piece is impeccably detailed, juxtaposed with the just stunning artworks of the backdrop. I think I'm just so impressed by this because Ubisoft is known for making good-looking games, but The Lost Crown is just masterfully handled. You could convince me this wasn't a Ubisoft game. The artwork down to the customizations of each different amulet is so thoughtful, I found myself just inspecting the collectibles before deciding to use it. They could have easily just made the amulets nothing coins, silver circles, and we'd be none the wiser as the player. The level design is immaculate and each area flows into one another so well. As I've been saying, one of the things that this game does strongly is it combines the story beats with what you're doing and getting in gameplay, and the environment is the same. Each shifting environment twisting to the curse of Mount Koth in its diverse and distinct way really reflects the narrative beats that you're experiencing. The animations are silky smooth and the whole game just runs flawlessly. The movement animations in combat with the whipping winds of Sargon's swords are subtly combined but are on full display in the crisp 4K 120 frames per second experience. The in-game cinematics are crisp and offer a great close-up look to the art style on display. The character designs and armor are very cool, and I think overall The Lost Crown gives us one of the most visually appealing looks at Persia in the franchise to date. The audio is pretty good in this game. Notably, the voice cast and their performances are wonderful. I have to address the elephant in the room. The cast performances are great, minus the one Whack Whack spirit, who is literally a text-to-speech voice. Let me share with you.
What do we have here? A traveler who seems to know the way, but is forever led astray.
Ubisoft has apparently addressed this as a placeholder, and the voice lines were already recorded and are going to be patched in, but like, come on. I don't want to take away from the other great performances just because Ubisoft be Ubisofting. The soundtrack is epic, and I feel it does wonderfully scoring the different environments and bringing their aesthetics to life. There are a ton of great audio cues and sounds going on in the backdrop. Combat audio sounds fantastic, and time abilities are often marked with a very whimsical and ethereal audio cue. Overall, the audio and visual experience in The Lost Crown is marvelous. With some of the best environments and level design in the genre, the great cast of characters have a gorgeous world to exist in, and the actors' performances complement the experience well. The music and audio cues provide a great ambiance to round out this piece, bringing the artistic vision of the game to life in a riveting package. All in all, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown is one of the best entries to the franchise, and a huge achievement in the blended 2D, 3D platformer genre. What makes The Lost Crown work is a highly curated combination of beautifully crafted movement abilities that flow into exceptional combat techniques melded together with a great narrative. Supported by some of the best level design in the genre, The Lost Crown is deeply satisfying to explore and makes the time you have to backtrack enjoyable. The memory system is markedly one of the most simple but necessary tools I've ever seen, and I hope more games implement this. The combat is probably some of the crispiest combo work I've seen in a platformer, paying homage to the likes of Hollow Knight and Devil May Cry. With a wide cast of enemies and bosses to challenge your new understandings, the beginning of the game is oppressive and makes rolling into the loot feel tedious until you get your bearings. However, once you do, The Lost Crown has a meaningful story that really only fumbles its parts now and again, supported by a great voice cast to tie the experience together. With a wide array of accessibility features that make the game digestible for a massive audience, I'm shocked more people aren't talking about this game. With its beautiful world and large list of collectibles, I spent about 30 hours playing to get the platinum. Some annoying bugs were present, but nothing that broke the game, but hardly worth noting as a return to the main screen solved my issues. With the game so fun, gorgeous, and consistent in its themes, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown earns a rock-solid 8.5 for me. The story had me excited, and it was a great surprise that it had moments of real mystery, but overall as a Prince of Persia version of a story we've seen dozens of times. Absolutely flawless combat and movement makes the endgame one of the greatest platform experiences I've personally had, but the beginning sequences feel rough and overly punishing if you struggle with the combat like I did. If you don't want to bang your head against the wall, or you need the options, the Accessibility Suite lets you customize every aspect of damage and enemies, traversal, and more, making it have one of the lowest barrier of entries possible. The use of the automated voice in a game that's so intimately crafted will always be odd, but I'm glad it's just a placeholder, so they say. But with the success of this entry, I hope we see a future of Prince of Persia in the Metroidvania market from this point forward, and I can't wait to see what they cook up next. Thank you for your time and energy by checking out this video. Help out my reviews by liking and sharing. Have you played The Lost Crown? Did you even know it was out? Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Until next time, my friends.